Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. My name is Andrea, and I am an intuitive spiritual guide, a writer, an actress, an energy healer, and pretty much whatever else I decide I want to be. And and I'm so excited to talk to you today about a topic that is so near and dear to my heart, and it is really the foundation of the work that I do with women in teaching women how to become conscious creators, how to embody the divine feminine, how to take control of their lives, how to empower themselves, and how to really create the life of their dreams. And the foundation of that, the root of that is the truth that you cannot be both a goddess and a victim. You cannot be both. You have to pick one. And the reason why you cannot be both is because both of these states of being, these concepts, these ideas, these senses of self are in direct opposition to one another. They cannot coexist simultaneously. The reason why they cannot coexist simultaneously is because one is rooted in power, sovereignty, and freedom, and the other one is rooted in powerlessness, enslavement, and limitation. One is based off of the pure understanding and understanding that everything that I'm experiencing and everything that I'm calling in is my creation. And I'm calling this in as a way of growing myself, of stepping into a deeper sense of who I am, a deeper sense of what my power is. And the other one is coming from a place of, well, things are just happening to me, or everybody else is the blame for my circumstances, or life sucks, or I just am cursed by the circumstances of my life. And so when you start looking at them as these two separate identities, which is what they are, and recognizing the fact that in order to be a goddess, you have to let go of this idea of victimhood, then what comes into play is the reality of full radical responsibility for yourself, your life, and everything that you are experiencing within your life. And the concept or the reality of taking that full responsibility for yourself is extremely difficult for most people, which is why most people in this world live in a state of victimhood. They live in a state of victim consciousness where they think or feel that everything is just coming at them and life is against them or the world is against them, and they've just drawn a poor hand at life, or they're unlucky, or they are cursed through the nature of their existence. And that's just simply not the case. The life that you are living is a result of A, what you're willing to take responsibility for, and B, what you desire. And when we talk about desires, oftentimes what comes into mind is all of the good things. Well, I desire money, and I desire, riches, or I desire fame, or I desire a nice car, or love, or whatever it is that is like the nice, light, fluffy things that we associate with desire. But desire just means that you want something, and it's the thing that you're focusing your energy on, and it's what you're calling in based on the fact that it is related to or directly connected to your awareness, your consciousness, and your conditioning and the programming that you are operating from. So if you are looking around at your life and you're saying to yourself, I don't like my life, I don't enjoy the existence that I have, the very first thing that you do to get out of that victim consciousness into goddess consciousness is to recognize that the life that you're living is a result of your desires. You are living that life because you have asked for it through your conscious being, through your actions, and through the continuation of you doing the same things over and over again to maintain the circumstances that you're currently existing in. And so it's very, very difficult for people to reconcile that, well, wait a second, I'm in an abusive relationship, or my family is unsupportive, or I'm not making enough money, or any number of unfortunate, painful things that we experience in life. It's very difficult to reconcile that you're going through these things because you've chosen it or because you somehow desire it. And that's because a lot of people don't understand the nature of consciousness. They don't understand the nature of manifestation. You are manifesting every single moment that you are awake. Even when you're asleep, you're manifesting, but you are consciously manifesting and unconsciously manifesting all the time. And so when you are looking at your surroundings and what it is that you're pouring your energy into, the reason why you are experiencing that reality is because that is what you're pouring your energy into. That's what you're thinking about. That's what you're focusing on. That's what all of your emotional responses are connected to, which is why you're calling it in. So an example that I always love to give that is actually very controversial and can be quite triggering for a lot of people is a lot of women around the world are in relationships where they're being mistreated, where they're being abused, whether it's emotional, physical, sexual, etc. They're experiencing abuse. And the idea that a woman is choosing that or somehow desiring that can be very controversial and very triggering for a lot of people to hear that concept, because our natural inclination is to want to blame the other person. And it doesn't mean that the person that the woman is in a relationship, 9 times out of 10, a man, it doesn't mean that this person isn't being abusive or manipulative or gaslighting or any of the other things that we associate with abuse. It doesn't mean that they're not being those things or they're not exhibiting those behaviors. It's very true that this man is doing these things to this woman. But the fact is that the reason why the woman is in that circumstance is because she is choosing it. She is desiring to be in that circumstance. And now we can start talking about all of the background that leads to those choices. We can talk about childhood trauma. We can talk about conditioning. We can talk about religious indoctrination, socialization. We can talk about all of these factors that contribute to it that definitely play a role. But ultimately, what it comes down to is establishing the awareness of the fact that if I'm in this circumstance, I have to take responsibility for me being in this circumstance, and me being aware of this circumstance and then choosing it every single day. I have to take responsibility for the fact that I'm choosing this every single day. And now the reason why I bring up the example of a woman in an abusive relationship with a man is because as the divine feminine consciousness has continued to grow and rise within the collective, there's so much awareness, really hyper awareness around patriarchal oppression and subjugation of women. And this is something that I have been so passionate about for many, many years. And I went through myself a really dark period of intense anger and feeling victimized by patriarchy, feeling victimized by the nature of men oppressing women, which, again, just like I was saying before, I'm not negating the fact that these things exist and that these things happen. But at a certain point, we have to take a step back and start looking at, okay, well, where do I have power within this framework or within this system or within this this circumstance that we are experiencing, whether it's on an individual level or a collective level, because we can talk about all of the things that we feel like men should be doing in order to eradicate patriarchy or to step up or to be more supportive of women, to be protective of women. We can talk about all of these things until we're blue in the face, but ultimately what we are doing as women on a macro level and as a woman on a micro level is we are abdicating responsibility. We are putting the responsibility, which is the power, onto the other person. And that's not how women are going to rise into their full power, by expecting outside or external forces or external beings, external, humans to rise into a seat of responsibility that we ourselves could be taking responsibility for. And this is something, again, that I feel like is very, very difficult for a lot of women to understand and to wrap our brains around, because so much of the effort and the energy that we're emitting in the world right now is to get other people to show up in the way that we think that they should be showing up in order for us to have freedom, in order for us to have sovereignty, in order for us to have safety, et cetera, et cetera. And that is disempowering. That is coming from a victim consciousness. That's coming from the consciousness of this person has more power than I do. Therefore, I'm going to defer to them in all things, which leaves you feeling disconnected. It leaves you feeling dissatisfied, and it leaves you feeling disempowered, because what you are doing is disempowering yourself. Where the real power comes from is saying, well, wait a second, If I am the physical embodiment of the goddess, of the divine mother, of the great creatrix herself, then that means this is my creation. And what is the role that I have played or continue to play in the creation of this circumstance? And this works on an individual level, talking about a woman who is in an abusive relationship, and on a macro level when we're talking about patriarchy. And so to step into the goddess consciousness means that this is my creation, therefore I have the power to create it differently. But that is going to require radical responsibility. That's going to require not looking to the other person to show up in the way that we think they should be showing up, and recognize that when I show up in the way that I should be showing up, when I show up in my full sovereignty, when I show up in my full power and the full expression of my being, then the other person has no choice but to match the frequency that I'm now existing within. That's where the real power comes from. That's why shifting out of the victim consciousness into the goddess consciousness is going to absolutely change your life, because you're no longer going to be expending so much of your life force energy with blame and anger and victimhood and oppression, all directed outside of yourself to people who ultimately don't have the responsibility to do the thing that you want them to do. You get to direct all of the responsibility and power back to yourself and make the necessary changes to shift your circumstances and thus your reality. That is where the power comes from. And this is why it's so important for me to teach this to the women that I work with, because a lot of the women that come to me, they come to me having lived their entire lives in service to other people, being people pleasers to other people, to the point where they have reached it. A lot of the women that come to me are in their late 40s, early 50s, and they have no concept of who they are. They don't even really know what their true desires and passions are, because they have given so much of their power away to the people outside of them. And even though they recognize that they've given so much of their power away, a lot of their frustration and anger is directed at the people that they gave their power to, versus really sitting with themselves and taking responsibility for the fact that they chose to do that. And again, we can talk about conditioning. We can talk about childhood trauma. We can talk about all of the circumstances that lead to making those choices. And that is in the work that I do of healing those root causes, healing those patterns, healing that conditioning, healing the brainwashing that so many women have gone through to get to the point where they're living their lives for everybody except themselves. But it requires first acknowledging and taking responsibility for what it is that you created, because you cannot create something different than what you have until you acknowledge and take responsibility for what you're currently existing within and what you have created in that existence. So when you are hearing the differences between the goddess consciousness and the victim consciousness and all of the nuances inherent in both of these, which one feels better to you? Like which one resonates with your soul more deeply? Is it, oh, well, everybody's out to get me and my life sucks and this is just how it is, and white supremacy and patriarchy and family and religion and all these things that you want to blame? Or is it, wait a second, now that I understand the real power that I have, now that I understand the fact that everything that I've experienced up until this point is to teach me how to stand up for myself, how to say no, how to really walk in my power, how to look somebody in the eye and say, no, that does not serve me, and I'm choosing something differently. And if you're mad about it, oh, well, you will get over it. Which one feels better to you? Which one has more inherent power than the other? And the reason why I ask that is because there is, because of the depth of the conditioning that so many of us go through, there is this dissonance that happens when you start hearing the idea that you are responsible for what it is that you are experiencing, because we are taught to blame others. We're taught to make other people apologize to us, or other people to atone, or other people to give reparations for the things that we feel that we have done to them. But we don't stop and take a look at ourselves and the role that we have played in the creation of those circumstances. And when you take a look and you take a step back and you really take a look at the role that you played in the creation of your circumstances, yes, it is painful. It is absolutely painful. I will never discount or sugarcoat the pain and the grief that comes from really recognizing the role that you've played in the circumstances that you are living. And that's where the liberation comes from. That's where the freedom comes from, because you are no longer looking outside of yourself for answers to the problems that you have. You realize that you are the source. You are the answer to all of the dilemmas that you've been facing. You are the answer to all of the dilemmas that you have been facing. And when you realize, wait a second, I'm the answer, I get to take responsibility for this, that's where the freedom and the power comes from, because then you stop looking outside of yourself and depending on somebody else to be who you want them or need them to be in order for you to have the life that you want. But it requires a radical shift in your self-concept. It takes radical responsibility, which is painful, it is challenging, and it requires so much of you. But what you receive on the other end of that is everything. Because when you take responsibility for everything, then everything becomes at your disposal. It becomes available to you because you're not looking outside of yourself to receive or experience the things that you want. And so when I start working with someone for their very first time, that's the first thing that we dive into is really understanding the concept of radical responsibility and abdicating the role of victim and assuming the role of goddess, of conscious creatrix, of a divine being who is empowered to call in whatever it is that she desires from the seat of her higher self, not the desires that are coming from the lower conditioned self, but the desires that are coming from the empowered, aware, conscious higher self. And then when you are able to shift into this new role of goddess, of conscious creatrix, of someone who is willing to take radical responsibility, that's when life starts to be fun. That's when you start to have a much better time because you realize, okay, wait a second. All of this is me. All of this is the result of me. And if all of this is the result of me, then anything that I want can come from this. And so then you start realizing that every interaction with another person, rather than looking at them as someone who is an enemy or an antagonist, you get to look at them as a teacher. You get to look at them as someone who is there to gift you deeper insight into yourself and what your power is. You look at them as somebody who is showing up to show you who you are being and how you are relating and how you are manifesting so that you can decide if you want to keep showing up as that person. You start looking at people and the experiences that you have with them, especially when they're challenging or difficult or painful, as gifts rather than curses or hindrances to your life. And so when you start looking at the people around you as players within the game that you get to relate to and interact with in order to become the next highest version of yourself, then you get to have more fun with it. Then you get to start having more fun with life. Life doesn't have to be this thing that you're constantly trudging through or trying to simply survive. It gets to become a game that you get to play. It gets to become an opportunity to experience yourself in deeper and deeper ways and experience the depth of your power, experience the depth of your ability to create, experience the depth of your ability to receive, to express, to show up in bigger and better ways than you had been doing previously when you were limited by the victim consciousness. And so for me, this is a game changer, and it really does serve as the foundation of everything, because when you move out of that victim consciousness into the goddess consciousness, then you start stepping into the realm of limitlessness, limitless possibility, limitless potential. Versus I'm limited because I'm a woman, or I'm limited because I'm Black, or I'm limited because I'm a Black woman, or I'm limited because of my socioeconomic status, or I'm limited because of the neighborhood that I live in, or I'm limited because of the school that I went to, or whatever it is that you have decided is the reason why you don't have the life that you want. And when you let that go and you say, this is the game that I'm playing, these are the circumstances that I'm dealing with. It's just like in a video game. When you choose your player and you choose your weapons and your handicaps and the terrain, and it's a choose your own adventure game where you say, this is what I'm dealing with. This is the platform that I have to build off of. So let me master this. Let me take the gifts that I have and play with these to create something absolutely magnificent from it, instead of looking at yourself as a victim or cursed by your circumstances. And so life gets to be rich and full and exciting and joyful and pleasurable and all of these amazing things when you decide that I am responsible for everything. And if I don't like the way that I'm feeling, if I don't like what I'm seeing, then I get to change that. I get to show up differently. I get to heal the parts of myself that have called these experiences in, because that's why it's happening. That's what I was saying at the beginning. You are desiring this. You're calling these experiences in because of the frequency that you're holding within you. And that frequency is determined by your past. It is determined by your childhood. It is determined by traumas. It's determined by past lifetimes. It's determined by the experiences of your mother and your grandmother and your great grandmother and so on and so forth. And so you have the opportunity to bring awareness to those parts that need to be healed, that need to be integrated, those shadows that need to be recognized, those shadows that need acknowledgement. And once you give them that acknowledgement, once you heal them, integrate them, bring them back into your heart space, and release the energetic charge that is surrounding all of these experiences, and start looking at them from a completely different lens and realizing that this experience isn't to break me. This experience is to grow me. This experience is to expand me. This experience was to bring me into my purpose. This experience was meant to activate my passion. This experience was meant to lead me into deeper service for other people. That's the beauty of it. When I think about my life circumstances and the things that I went through as a child and as an adolescent and as a young woman, I have absolutely carried a lot of anger with me. I have definitely been in the victim consciousness where I felt like life was unfair, or other people had it so much better than me, or because I was a Black woman, I was taught that I automatically had two strikes against me in society. Like, think about how harmful it is to take on that idea about yourself, that simply by nature of you being a female, which there is nothing on this planet that is more powerful and beautiful than being a female, than being a woman. But you're taught from a young age that that's a hindrance to you, or to be a Black woman, a melanated woman, the Aboriginal woman. You're the Aboriginal woman, and therefore you're designed to suffer? Fuck that. Fuck that. Absolutely not. I do not accept that. I do not accept that. I get to take the fact that I was born in this body with this skin tone and realize that this is what makes me a goddess. This is what makes me so powerful. My melanin is what connects me to the sun. It's what connects me to the ethers. It's what connects me to the womb of consciousness, the womb of creation. It's my fucking superpower. I'm not a victim because of this. I'm a goddess because of this. And when you shift your perspective, when you shift the way that you see yourself and the cards that you were dealt, then you shift your entire being, you shift your entire reality and your circumstances, and you realize that the things that I've experienced in my life were designed to bring me into my power so that I could teach and uplift other women, so that I can be in service to other women or children or men or whomever it's your calling to be in service to. Your circumstances are designed to bring you more fully into your purpose, not to make you feel like you are a victim of those circumstances and that your life is cursed because of it. So what is your power? And when you look at your pain, when you look at your circumstances, when you look at your upbringing, when you look at the things that you've gone through, your power is hidden within that. That's where your gifts are. That's where your talents are. That's where your superpowers are. That's where your spiritual gifts are. Whatever they may be, every single one of us has spiritual gifts. Every single one of us is an energy healer or a clairvoyant or a psychic or a medium or a channeler or whatever it is that is inherent to you and your being. Every single one of us has this gift. And it is our experiences The very difficult, painful ones, the ones that we think were meant to knock us on our ass, that's the seed of our power. That's the root of your power. So stop looking at yourself like a victim and realize that you are a goddess, that you are a conscious creatrix, and take responsibility for your life. Take responsibility for yourself. Take responsibility for what's possible for you. Take responsibility for the potential that lies ahead for you. And all you have to do is just tap into it and call it in. That's how amazing this gets to be for you with this simple shift in concept, this simple shift in mindset. Now, is it easy? No, absolutely not. It's not easy at all. It's very, very difficult. It's probably the most difficult journey that you're ever going to embark on, which again, like I said at the beginning, it's why most people don't change. It's why most people live and die in mediocrity. They live and die in depression. They live and die in a state of never realizing and recognizing the potential that they have, because the idea and the concept of taking responsibility for themselves, true responsibility for everything in their life, is just too difficult for a lot of people. But what I will say to that is that we are designed to do difficult things. We are designed to adapt. We are designed to grow. We are designed to expand. And the difficulties and the challenges that we're presented with are exactly that. They are here to serve us in our growth and in our expansion. So if you can take a step back and really give yourself a bird's eye view of your entire existence, you will realize that there's so much available to you, and it's all happening for you. The victim says, this is happening to me. The goddess says, this is happening for me. And that right there, if you take nothing else from this video, take that. If you're a victim, you think that everything that you're experiencing is happening to you. But if you're a goddess, you know that everything you're experiencing is happening for you. And then you get to see the gift in that. You get to see the value in that. You get to see the power in that. You get to see the lesson and the teachings in that. Let me take this experience that would bring other people to their knees, and shit, it might bring me to my knees, but I'm going to get back up, because I know that this experience is here to teach me how fucking powerful I am. It's here to teach me how incredible I am. It's here to teach me how resilient I am. It's here to teach me that there is nothing in this world that I can't face, because everything that I'm facing in this world is meant for me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be experiencing it. So regardless of your circumstances right now, or regardless of what your circumstances have been, you have the power to rise into a greater expression of who it is that you are. Because I don't even want to say it's who you are becoming or who you're meant to be, because you are that person. You just can't see it yet. She's being covered by all the layers of conditioning. She's being covered by all the layers of brainwashing, that you are a limited being, that you can't be more than what you are. But she's there. She's just waiting for you to see her. She's waiting for you to recognize her. She's waiting for you to choose her. She's waiting for you to take responsibility for her. Because the responsibility that you take is what will allow her to be the very thing that you are embodying. So if you've made it this far, I want you to drop down in the comments and tell me how this message has made you feel. Has it caused a shift in you? Where in your life have you been abdicating your power? Where in your life have you been abdicating that responsibility? And where are you going to call that power back to yourself? Where are you going to take responsibility for yourself? Where are you going to take responsibility for the creation of your existence? Where do you get to be the being that you've always meant to be, but you just haven't been able to see her, or you didn't think that it was possible to be her because of your circumstances? Who is she? What is she like? How does she show up for herself every day? What are the choices that she makes? What does she say yes to? What does she say no to? What does she allow? And what does she reject? Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and for listening to what it is that I have to share for you. And please know that sharing what it is that I've learned, sharing what it is that I have experienced in my own life with you is my passion. There is nothing in this world that I am more passionate about than loving and being in service to women, to the collective of women, to contribute to the rising of the divine feminine consciousness, to getting women tapped in to what is necessary for them to ride the wave of this, new life, this new world, this new earth that's being created through the collective consciousness right now. Getting women grounded into the seat of their power and their passion and their purpose and their pleasure. That's my passion. That's my pleasure. That's why I'm here. So I want to thank you for taking the time to be here. And if you feel like you want to drop in with me, if you want to work with me one-on-one, I will leave all of the links of the ways that you can work with me or connect with me down in the description box. I love answering questions in my DMs on Instagram. So drop a question in the comments or drop a question in my DMs on Instagram. Let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you want to hear next. Let me know what you want to see more of. What are some of the questions that you've been having? What are some of the things that you've been dealing with that you need assistance working through? Let's get to the root so that we can sit in our seat of power together as a collective of women, as the embodiment of the divine feminine, as goddesses, as conscious creators. I love you all so much, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.